The tendency of the human heart is that we're tracking that thing every single day, the ups and downs. And you go on an emotional roller coaster when you do that, and you probably are going to act unwisely when doing that. So don't track your investments every day. Don't track your investments on a minute-by-minute basis, but you do need to pay attention.
Welcome to Stewardology, a podcast where two worlds collide. In this show, financial advisor Tim Russell and Pastor Drew Gysi are joined by me, producer Tyler Rutherford, to explore the intersection of financial stewardship and theology. Their unique perspectives help Christians and churches understand and apply a biblical framework for everyday financial decisions so Christians everywhere can grow in their walk with Christ through biblical stewardship. Before we get started, we just wanted you to know that the topics discussed in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific investment advice or recommendations. Investment and investment strategies involve risk, including the potential loss of principal, and past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Securities and advisory services are offered through Genius Wealth Management, member FINRA, and SIPC. Without further ado, here are your hosts, Tim Russell, Drew Gysi, and Tyler Rutherford.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another week, another episode of the Stewardology Podcast. I'm Tyler, and I'm here with my co-host, Tim Russell.
Well, hello.
And Drew Gysi is out this week. He will be back soon. Remember what I said last week? He'll be back. Don't worry. Don't stress. But hey, you've been listening to this podcast for a while. If you've been here for a round or you're new, you hear us talk about this concept often that we should be saving and investing for the future. You've probably even heard us reference the magic of compound interest.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool place to be, pretty cool thing to explore. You often hear us talk about Roth IRAs. Fund them. Do I do it? Do I not? How do I do that? Well, today in this episode, we're going to discuss how to open a Roth IRA and then what to do next. This is kind of the beginner's course on how to get that kind of account open, when it would be applicable to you or helpful or beneficial in your situation. So I'm going to talk to Tim today, our resident financial planner, CFP, CKA. He's got all the fund designations about opening a Roth IRA and whether or not you actually should even begin this journey. So the step one, am I ready? What do I have to consider first before doing this?
Are you ready to open a Roth IRA? First of all, are you breathing?
Are you breathing?
Just kidding. So here's what you need to know. Before you start investing, there are probably a couple things that you need to think about before you start your investing journey. Here's a couple rules of thumb. There are higher priorities than simply investing for retirement. When we teach our biblical responsible priorities in churches, we talk about the priority number 2 is save. And when we talk about saving, we say there are two kinds of saving. There's short-term saving and there's long-term saving. And I ask the audience, which one is more important? And the answer is actually a trick question because they're both really important. But maybe if I rephrase the question, say, which one do you do first? More people get it right. It's you start with short before you go long. Because your need for tomorrow comes before your need for 20 years from now. So prepare for the need for tomorrow before you prepare for the need for 20 years. But don't allow yourself to be so focused on tomorrow that you forget about 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So what's higher priority than simply investing? Number 1, have a budget, know where your money's going, tell your money where to go based on your priorities, based on biblical priorities. Number 2, give regularly and consistently. Investing and savings is not in lieu of charitable giving. You don't wait until you're financially successful to do your giving. You give even while you're trying to establish yourself financially. You give faithful in the little, God says you will be faithful in the much. So give when you're still trying to get it together. Number 3, have an emergency fund. That's short-term savings. Put money aside to keep you out of credit card debt, not if, but when something breaks, something goes bad, something goes wrong. You need to call a plumber for the leaky sink or the hot water heater, the hot water tank.
Yeah. We like to say hot water heater here in PA, but it's kind of redundant.
Yeah. that hot water thing. Yeah. So when that thing breaks, you need to call a plumber. It ain't cheap, right? So have an emergency fund. You can go back and take a look at episode 27, way back in the early days, first year of our podcast. We have an episode on what you need to do with short-term, long-term savings for an emergency fund. Number 4, have a plan to get out of debt. We need you to be knocking out that high interest credit card debt, really be on a trajectory for financial success. And then number 5, get ready to start investing. So those are the things that you need to do, I would say, are important priorities before getting investing. If you follow Dave Ramsey, he would tell you, according to the baby steps, you don't really start investing long-term until you've knocked out baby step number 2, which is, so starter emergency fund is baby step 1. Baby step 2 is debt snowball, paying off all of your high interest credit card or consumer debt. And then you do step 3, which is a large emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of living expenses. And then it's contributing 15% of your income towards retirement savings. That's the Ramsey plan. I agree with that in theory. If you want to follow that particular advice, I think it's good. I think there's a lot of wisdom to that. I do know some people feel like I'm so far behind the 8 ball. I need to start sooner than later so compound interest can start working for me. So I want to be able to do a little bit of both, which is why the way I phrase it is have a plan to get out of debt, not be entirely debt-free in and of itself. I would, however, urge that you would not want to be focusing any of your money on long-term savings when you have 20+% interest credit cards. You knock those suckers out because that's compound interest working against you. You want to get compound interest working for you, but you can't really do that until you take care of the compound interest that's working against you. Make sense?
I think that's great. Okay, so we're working chronologically here. I've discovered that I'm ready to start saving for the long term. What's the next thing I need to consider here?
Just open the Roth IRA, right?
Go for it.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is actually before you start thinking about Roth IRA is, are you eligible for an employer-sponsored retirement plan, a 401k, a 403b, a TSA, or I'm sorry, a TSP, like thrift savings plan? These are great ways of saving for retirement and enabling you to get an employer match. Especially if your employer will match a contribution, that it's free money. You should take advantage of that. So before you start funding your own Roth IRA, I would have you fund your work sponsor plan just enough to get every dollar your employer will give. At the Life Financial Group, I know I've said this before, when we set up our 401k, if you contribute 3%, we'll match dollar for dollar up to 3% of your income. And then for the next 2%, it's 50 cents on the dollar. So if you put in 5% of your income, the Life Financial Group will match 4%. So if you worked for me, according to this advice, you would put 5% of your income in the 401k, and then everything else, you would either choose to put it into your own Roth IRA, which would be like step 3 here, open and fund your Roth IRA, or you could simply keep it all and just fund your 401k, provided they offer you a Roth option.
I think this is a great time, Tim, to not go too deeply into it because we have episodes on this, traditional versus Roth.
Yep,
Can you just spend a minute and talk about that difference?
Yeah. So I maybe throw in the screen here in the show notes where they can go to get a deeper dive on this topic. But a traditional IRA, putting your money into a traditional 401k, allows you to save taxes on that income now. You make $50,000. You put $5,000 into your 401k, into your Roth IRA. Then you are taxed, and I said Roth IRA, please forgive me, I meant traditional IRA. You are taxed as if you made 45. You made 50, you contributed 5, you're taxed as if you made 45. Now, all of the money sitting in the 401k is tax deferred. There's no capital gains. There's no dividends that are taxed. There's no issues with that until you take the money out. So theoretically, you wait until you're 59 and a half or older, you're in retirement, then you can start pulling money out of the account. It's had time to grow, compounding, doubling every so often, right? If you earn 7.2% a year, your money will double in 10 years. So if your money has doubled a couple times, you've got a lot of money, you've contributed $100,000, it's worth $500,000. Well, congratulations, that's pretty fantastic. Every dollar you pull out of that IRA, out of that 401k is taxed as ordinary income. So you're theoretically in a lower income tax bracket when you're retired. Therefore, it's not as taxable for you, but you still have to pay taxes. And at some point, you'll have to do an RMD, required minimum distribution. Roth IRAs are different. You put $5,000 into a Roth IRA. Now you're making $50,000. You put $5,000 into a Roth 401k or a Roth IRA. You're taxed as if you made $50,000. Remember, the traditional, you're taxed at 45. The Roth, you get no deduction for the contribution. You get taxed on your full income. The difference, however, is that the money in the Roth grows tax-free. That is huge. Tax-free growth is absolutely monumental. And when you retire, that $100,000 turns to $500,000 in this hypothetical scenario. Every dollar you pull out of there is tax-free. No taxes ever. No RMDs required for you in your lifetime. A lot of really great benefits for the Roth IRA. If you don't like paying taxes, then I encourage you, use the Roth IRA. It is a very good option in reducing future taxation.
Yeah, because tax rates go down over time, right?
Yeah. Well, at this point, when we're sitting under the Trump tax bill and we're at the lowest tax rate that we're likely going to see in our lifetime, now is a great time to be paying taxes. Yeah. Frankly, in order to avoid future taxes when tax rates are likely going to be higher.
Awesome. Okay, so now we've gotten that distinction. We're ready to open our Roth IRA.
So may I just go back to the 401k and just give you a quick context?
Yeah.
2026, you're allowed to contribute $24,500 to a 401k. The ability to contribute, the amount that you can contribute to a 401k is significantly higher than what you can contribute to a Roth IRA. And I'll give you those limits in a minute. And if you're older than 50 years old or older, you can actually contribute over $30,000. There's an extra catch-up provision in the 401k. So the 401k is a really good vehicle if you have the capacity to save more. So step one here with doing the retirement savings, employer plan, get the match. If the employer doesn't do a match, I would have the very next thing you do is open the Roth IRA. So let's walk through open the Roth IRA. If your employer doesn't offer the 401k, or if you've already contributed to the match, then you have money left over, you can open the Roth IRA. Here's what you do to do that. You go to either a financial advisor or you invest on your own, right? Those are the first decision you've got to make. How do I open the account? If I work with a financial advisor, you simply go to the advisor and the advisor will open the account for you. It's very, very simple. The reality, however, is that due to regulations and bureaucracy, the government has made it very expensive for financial advisors to offer compliantly the services that they're required to provide to people who don't have any money to invest or not much to invest. Therefore, you might find it difficult to work with a financial advisor. There are still plenty of advisors out there who have no minimums and who will work with anyone. If you find one and you're comfortable with them, they do a good job and have a good regulatory history, go to brokercheck.com or FINRA's broker check to find out if they've got any problems. You can feel free to work with them and they can help you open the account, follow their instructions, and they'll do fine. Just don't invest in an annuity. That's a terrible idea. Advisors who recommend annuities for Roth IRAs should be dragged out to the street and never mind, I will change the topic. It's a very bad idea. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah. Back up the bus again and again. So However, if you solo invest, if you can't find an advisor, solo investing is absolutely a legitimate option. And I have a number of suggestions for you. Now, I have to give you a caveat here. I am a regulated financial advisor, and it would be against the law for me to say, hey, listener on this podcast, go to XYZ company, open XYZ account, and use XYZ mutual fund or ETF or stock to invest in. That would be doing something called selling away, and I would be in violation of numerous regulations and would lose my licenses and all that. So I can't give you very specific advice like that. But this episode will still be helpful for you because I can give you generalized advice and I can give you education, which you might be able to deduce what might the right thing for you be. Okay? Read between the lines. We're going to help you. I got to do it in a compliant way. We'll get this done. All right.
If you want something more specific, it might warrant reaching out to us personally, correct?
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say personally. I should say through the company. Stewardologypodcast.com/review. Reach out to us there.
Yeah. Please don't knock on my front door. All right. So if you're going to invest with a company, the first thing you need to figure out is what company do you want to invest with? So look, there's a wide variety of internet-based investing platforms that are widely regarded as reputable, solid, reliable, and not a scam. So you can look at things like Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. There are other apps like the Robinhood program. There's a website, the app that'll allow you to do it as well. These are self-service kind of programs. So you go to the website. This is really hard here. Now, on that website, you click on the button. It's big. It's probably red or blue. It says open an account. You follow the instructions. You open the account. It's not hard. You look for a Roth IRA. You want to open a Roth IRA. Most people want to open a Roth IRA. There are caveats for people who don't qualify for a Roth IRA. Most of them are income-based. Either you don't make enough or you make too much to contribute to a Roth IRA. There are ways that we can help you with that if you make too much. If you don't make enough, then you don't make enough. You can't contribute. You have to have earned income. If you don't have any earned income whatsoever, you or your spouse, then you're not able to contribute. Social Security is not earned income. IRA distributions are not earned income. It's got to be wages, W-2 income, Schedule C income, something like that.
Is this adjusted gross income or is this everything?
No, it's earned income is a subset of adjusted. It's something that's used to figure out what your adjusted gross income is.
Okay.
So it would literally be like the wages line on the 1040 tax return. If you got a W-2, it shows up on wages. Mm-hmm. That shows that anything that's on that wages line counts.
That's the number.
Anything on self-employed income counts.
Yep.
It's got to be earned income. Everything else is unearned income. Interest income is unearned. Dividend income is unearned. IRA withdrawals, Social Security income, unearned. Business profit, royalties, rents, unearned. But if it's like rents or rental income, that's your primary business, that's a different story. That actually can count. So it depends on whether that's the substantial part of what you actually do, if you're substantively involved in the business or you passively collecting the rents. All right, so income, you have to know your whether you contribute or not. That's a really easy Google search. Just look at the income limits. Am I making too much? Am I making too little? How does that work? Open the account, follow the instructions. Pretty simple to do. So you go to the company website and you follow the instructions. They're going to ask you whether you want to open do a rollover IRA, open a Roth IRA, open a traditional IRA. In this case, you want to look for the Roth IRA. Rollover means I'm rolling money from my IRA at company A, moving my IRA to company B. Or it could be I am taking my money from my 401k and I'm moving it to a traditional IRA. That's a transfer, that's a rollover, and you would open or select that option to do it. In this case, you're opening an account, brand new, never opened a Roth IRA before, you just open a Roth IRA.
So once you've gone through that, you've filled out the form, they're going to ask you for things like, your social security number, your address, all the things, the identifying information that they need, bank routing numbers, that kind of stuff, so that you can actually fund the account. And that brings us to this next point, which is fund the account. How do we walk through this step?
So it depends on how much you have availability to fund. My recommendation is fund as much as you can up front. If you want to simply set up a systematic investment plan, so first of all, you are limited to $7,500 for an individual who's 49 and below. Someone who's 50 and above can contribute $8,600 in 2026. So those are the limits. So if you break it down on a monthly level, you divide by 12, an individual who is under the age of 50 can contribute $625 a month. So set up a systematic investment plan, $625 or less if you're under 50 years old. By the way, if you're over 50, that number jumps to $716.66, $716.66. Not too difficult. You can contribute any number up to that on a monthly level. So if you want to drop $1,000 in and then you're a couple months into the year and you want to then contribute the maximum monthly, that would be a beautiful thing. So choose a rough monthly amount. The amount will be directly withdrawn from your bank account, from your checking or savings account. And those funds are then going directly into your IRA. Just funding the account, however, is not enough. Putting money in the IRA is not the same as investing that money. Along the way, when you set up the investment plan, they will probably ask you, well, in which investment do you want that money to go? And our recommendation here is, first of all, I can't tell you specifically what to do. I can't tell you what specific fund to invest in, but I can say that there are a number of innovations that have come to the investing world which take some of the guesswork out for you if you're not an investing savant. If you don't know investing, you don't know options, you can choose a target date retirement fund that is dated close to when you think you might retire. So what year you turn in 65, 70 years old, when you think you might retire. Choose a fund like the 2055 fund, the 2060 fund, the 2075 fund, whatever that number happens to be. Choose a fund around that time frame, and the closer you get to that date, the more conservative it will become. I personally don't use any of those, nor do I generally recommend it for specific clients that I'm working with, because we'll actually give them an investment allocation that we think is better suited for their actual financial situation, what they need. But for someone who doesn't have that, this is a completely appropriate, sufficient way of at least getting the ball going. The worst thing you can do is just put it all in cash. Mm-hmm. Now, whenever you're choosing your investments, I have to read a disclosure, because in the investing world, there are certain things you have to know. Investments like mutual funds are sold by prospectus. Investors have to carefully read and understand the risks, the fees, the expenses, and the characteristics of their funds before they invest in them. Investing in the stock market, in mutual funds and ETFs are not FDIC insured. They are not backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. All investing obviously is involving risk. If you want to have growth, there will be risk, which means you can lose money. So past performance, just because it made money in the past, does not guarantee future success. I will also say past performance is an important thing to consider when thinking about the potential risk characteristics of a fund and the return characteristics of the fund. If something has had a 20% return for the last 5 years, you say, well, look, it's had a really phenomenal return. It's averaging 20% a year. This thing has no risk. It's just up and to the right. The reality is, if it's averaged that much, it's because it's taking on risk. When things go badly, it will look badly. So you just need to know that. Using a target date fund may assist in helping to reduce some of the volatility and the negative impact of that substantial market decline when it happens, not if it happens, when it happens.
So you mentioned one thing that's actually not a good investment for a Roth IRA. That'd be cash.
Yep.
What are some other things that would not be a good idea to include in a Roth IRA?
I'm not a fan of owning gold or silver bullion. You can hold gold or silver ETFs. Those are fine. Gold or silver mutual funds I don't like as much, but the ETF versions tend to be pretty good. But the bullion itself, not such a good idea because you can't use like a Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard to do that. You've got to go to a separate custodian who is set up to do that. And then the markups, the price markups are in some cases like twice the going rate price, the spot price. You're paying twice the price to buy the silver, buy the gold. It's a complete racket. So especially with gold and silver as pricey as it's been lately, I would not, under any circumstances, be doing gold or silver bullion in your IRA. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
What about real estate?
Oh, there's another one. Yeah. I'm not a fan of real estate in IRAs. I love real estate. I love real estate investing. But the complication, the tax complications, the custodial complications for doing real estate ownership, rental real estate for your retirement plans, don't commingle the different areas of your life. If you're into rental properties, do rental properties. If you're into real estate, do real estate. Just, if you're into retirement savings, do retirement savings. Don't mix the two together.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard this said in the past, the best investment strategy for you is one that you can understand and it's simple.
And
right?
that you can stick to.
Yeah, you can simple. So keep it simple, stupid. That's something I like to say.
Yeah.
Within an extent.
Yeah, but like some people are saying, well, I can stick to cash.
Too simple.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely too simple. I can stick to cash. I don't want any risk. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. You just recognize if you don't want any risk, you don't want any upside.
Right.
And you are accepting inflation risk.
Yep.
So inflation is an absolute risk. You do need to be aware of it, and you need to invest in a way. And I argue the Christian aspect to stewardship means that we need to be putting our money into companies that provide real values, real goods, real services for society, for mankind. That is fundamentally different than putting money in cash, which is burying it in the backyard and hoping you aren't going to lose it. So yeah, there's a place for cash. Temporarily, there's a place for cash in your portfolio, but as a long-term asset, right. No. Yeah. You need to be an investor, which means putting money to work, capital to work in companies that solve the world's most intractable problems.
Yeah. So if you're hearing this and your heart's starting to race because you don't quite know what to choose, remember Tim talked about that target date fund.
Yeah.
That could be very helpful, especially if you're just getting started and you have a long off-ramp to go. You're young. Certainly something to look into, pay attention to.
Yeah. So there's a target date fund. There's also target risk funds. So a target risk fund would be like an aggressive growth fund, a growth fund, a moderate growth fund, a conservative fund. These are target risk allocations. So if you say, I don't want aggressive growth, but maybe I can be moderate, that can be fine. Yeah, it's not going to change through the market cycles and as you age. So you have to pay attention to that. But it's a good way of at least getting your risk level right. And I would argue for someone who is young and investing, you should probably be willing to take on more risk than less risk. When the stock market crashes, not if, but when, instead of panicking, celebrate. This is a good time to buy more shares. In fact, I would argue have cash available for just this opportunity when the stock market does crash to buy things that are substantially on sale. One side note, in my 401k, I personally have been putting all of my contributions in my 401k into cash and investing it when I see an opportunity. So I pay attention. I'm a financial advisor. Don't do this at home. I'm just kidding. Just know that I'm different than maybe the average investor. But when the stock market crashed during the tariff tantrum back in April, I looked at that as a fantastic opportunity to buy some shares of really good investments at a very good price. I bulked up my biblically responsible ETF holdings, my biblical responsible mutual fund holdings, and a few stocks that I really liked at some very attractive bargain basement prices that just a few months later, I was looking at my one holding, I had an 80% gain in like 6 months in that one thing just because it did so well over a short period of time.
Wow.
So again, have cash on hand. Don't look at a stock market crash as a bad thing. It's a good opportunity to buy more shares of companies or of products that are really high quality at a great discount.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So we've opened our account and we've gone through that process. We've set up some systematic contributions to go into that account. Am I done? What do I need to do next?
Yeah, well, so you just set it and forget it and never look at it again. There's actually merit to that. Not to never look at it again, but just to recognize the tendency of the human heart is that we're tracking that thing every single day, the ups and downs. And you go on an emotional roller coaster when you do that, and you probably are going to act unwisely when doing that. So don't track your investments every day. Don't track your investments on a minute-by-minute basis. But you do need to pay attention. I would also argue when the stock market crashes and burns, now's not a good time to be paying even closer attention to your investments. Just give them time. If you got your risk level right before the stock market crashed, you're probably going to be okay. If anything, add more rather than try to pull out and go to cash. I'm telling you, odds are the minute you pull out, the market's going to say, ha, sucker, and then go back in the opposite direction. You'll be sitting in cash while everyone's starting to make money again. Don't do that. Keep your money invested. Invest more if you're able to. Make sure you get your risk right on the front end before the market crashes. If your risk is wrong, this is where you probably should talk to a financial advisor and figure out a strategy to deal with the risk and the opportunities that are before you.
All right, so Tim, I've been investing in my Roth IRA for quite some time. When can I take some money out? What is the withdrawal phase look like, or can I do early withdrawals? What does that entail?
So when you have a Roth IRA, you are allowed to access your contributions entirely tax-free. So it's free to you. So you can think of it in some ways like if an emergency really happened and you had to access some money, it is money that you can access. I will, however, come over there and slap your hands if you do it. I don't want you using your Roth IRA as an emergency fund. It's not really designed for that, although because you've already paid taxes on the contribution, you can take it out without having paid taxes again, no penalties on that. That is a very nice feature of a Roth IRA. That being said, Warren Buffett has Charlie Munger is one of like the number 2 guy to Warren Buffett for years and years and years. And while I don't agree with his politics or his theology, he had some really wise things to say sometimes. And he said the number 1 rule for investing and compound investing, the first rule of compounding is never interrupt it unnecessarily. Keep your money invested, allow it to compound and to grow. If you want compounding to work for you, don't market time. Keep investing and allow that investment to work over time. Again, if you're buying quality investments, quality companies that are going to stand the test of time, using wise investment managers, and I'm not talking about a financial advisor, I'm talking about like a fund manager or someone who's overseeing the strategy that you're using, who has wisdom and is able to choose companies that are doing well and avoid companies that are doing poorly, you are in a really good place to see the benefits of compounding, even though you will have periods of time where investing feels uncomfortable because you lose money over short periods of time. So I think that's a helpful thing to keep in mind. The last thing I think we should say about investing is that there is a process that you need to go through to pay attention to your investments. So you have to review and adjust your investments accordingly. So the first thing is you can rebalance your portfolio periodically, adding additional funds or investment strategies or categories as your portfolio grows. If you open the account and you open it with one fund and it had $5,000 in it, at $500,000, you probably shouldn't be using the same fund. It would be a wise idea to expand your categories of investing. And frankly, you don't feel threatened by this. Remember, if you go from 5 to 500,000, your confidence and your knowledge is going to increase as well. You will be able to choose investments that may be better suited to reach the different kinds of goals and desires that you have with that money. So feel free to diversify, feel free to rebalance the portfolio. So the next thing to do is, after you're rebalancing and adjusting your portfolio mix, is you have to monitor your income, your personal income, your earned income. Because if you have too much earned income, you might be disqualified to contribute to a Roth IRA. So for most of you, this isn't a threat or a problem, but if you are single in 2026, it's $153,000. If you make more than that, you're disqualified to contribute. If you're married, it's $242,000. So most people don't have to worry about that. You can contribute to a Roth IRA with no limitations. But if you do start getting into the higher income strata, just pay attention to the current levels for the year. It's a quick Google search. What's the current income limit for Roth IRA contributions? You'll find out what it is pretty simply online. Pay attention to your income and adjust your contributions or your strategy if you make too much money. There is such a thing as a backdoor Roth contribution. We're not going to go into that because it's beyond the scope of what this episode's designed to accomplish, but there are other strategies for high income individuals. Increase your contributions annually. Pay attention to the contribution limit. If you set up a Roth IRA way back in 2000 when Roth IRAs were a new thing, the limit was $2,000. If you've never adjusted your contributions, you may have been maxing it out at one time, but you're substantially below the annual contribution limit today at $7,500 for someone under 50 years old.
Yeah.
Increase your contributions as your income increases and your ability, your capacity to save increases. You should be contributing more. If you have maxed out your Roth IRA, that's where the 401k comes in. You have a lot more capacity within the 401k to do excess savings. Don't panic when the market crashes. That's the other thing. Remember, market crashes are not the if, they're the when. The market will crash. What do you do when it does crash? Don't panic. Keep your money invested. Look to add more to the market. Rebalance into things that maybe have more losses that maybe are going to recover more rapidly. Again, there's a lot of guesswork with that, but if you've been around a market crash a time or two, you get a sense for how these things tend to work, so you can use that to your favor. And then avoid early withdrawal penalties. Don't go pulling money out when you don't need it. Don't treat your retirement savings like a piggy bank. It's not an emergency fund. It can work like that, but don't pull the money out if you don't absolutely need to. So we said earlier that you can always access your contributions penalty-free and income-free. But once you're over 59 and a half, you can withdraw both your contributions and your gains, totally penalty-free, tax-free, if you're over 59 and a half. And this is an important caveat, the account's been open for at least 5 years. That is a very important caveat. And that also applies to a 401k. So if you only contribute to a Roth 401k, you don't have a Roth IRA, you roll that Roth 401k over to a Roth IRA when you retire, which that's the right thing to do. You want to do that. Roll it to a Roth 401k or Roth IRA. The 5-year rule still applies. In fact, they don't give you any credit for having a Roth 401k for 5, 15 or more years. That doesn't count as a Roth IRA. The Roth IRA itself must be open for at least 5 years. And it's not that particular Roth IRA. It's that you've had to have a Roth IRA for 5 years before you can access it. So from a planning perspective, if you're 50 years old, I would have you open a Roth IRA, put a couple bucks in it. That way the clock starts then. That way when you roll your Roth 401k over into that account or a separate account, the 5-year rule has already been satisfied. There's no issues with it. So again, it's an important little caveat to be aware of.
That's interesting. So we know there are penalties for early withdrawals of the growth, but there are exceptions. Can you walk us through some of those exceptions? I know there are some features that make it a little bit more attractive, like, for example, the first-time home purchase. What can you say about those items?
Yeah, so for someone buying a first-time home, you can access up to $10,000 of growth in a Roth IRA without penalty. There's qualified education expenses for higher education. You can withdraw money and gains for birth or adoptions, disabilities, or death. There's unreimbursed medical expenses that exceed a certain percentage of your income could potentially allow you to withdraw the growth from your account. You have to recognize, however, even in all of these situations, in order for you to get to the growth, the IRS actually deems the first money to come out is your contribution. Once you get through all your contribution, then you get to your growth. So you would have to be withdrawing the full amount of your account in most situations to really get the benefit for these things.
Interesting.
And then health insurance premiums, if you've been unemployed for 12 consecutive weeks, you can withdraw from your Roth IRA tax-free to cover those premiums. Just because you can do something doesn't mean I want you to do it.
Amen.
These are things that are provisions within the law that are certainly better than going into debt to cover some of these expenses. But again, we want to structure your life and your financial reality so that you don't need to rely on these features to cover education expenses. I wouldn't sacrifice your retirement for education for your kids. I wouldn't want to be pulling money out for a lot of money out for the first time home purchase. If you need it for some down money, again, that's part of what it's there for. But don't look at that as your piggy bank. It's not what it's there for. So here you go. We've walked you through how to open the account. What do you need to be doing to be ready to start saving for retirement? Start putting the money into the 401k. You get the match. Use the Roth 401k if it's available. After you've accessed the match, open and fund your Roth IRA. Max out your Roth IRA. If you still have the ability to contribute more, put that into the 401k. And if you still have more money that you need to invest, well, we have an episode that actually addresses what do you do when you have more money to invest than you actually have vehicles to invest in. I hope this was helpful for you. We want you to get going. For many of you, you don't even know where to start. We're hoping that today's episode is at least a primer to get you pointed in the right direction so that you can take agency over your future through setting up savings and investing to reach your retirement goals and to be a blessing to your family and a blessing to others. And my prayer is that that's exactly what would happen. Don't look at savings. Don't look at your portfolio. Don't look at your Roth IRA as your savior. Don't look at it as the source of all of your future needs and wants. Keep on looking to Christ. Invest and save. But He is the one who will provide. He is the one who will help you through. I hope that's a blessing and encouragement to you. Until next time, take care. God bless. And don't forget, save and invest and don't interrupt compound interest unnecessarily. You'll thank me if you don't. God bless.
Thanks for joining us on the Stewardology Podcast, where financial stewardship and theology meet. We'd like to help you take your next steps in biblical financial stewardship. Subscribe in your podcast provider to get the newest episode delivered to you every week. Leave a 5-star rating and review to help new listeners find the show. Take advantage of your free personal stewardship review at stewardologypodcast.com/review. Be sure to follow us on social media and visit our website at stewardologypodcast.com for tons of free resources and hundreds of free episodes. You can also leave episode ideas at stewardologypodcast.com/idea. Remember, Psalm 20, verse 7, some trust in chariots and some trust in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. See you next week.